What's my tribe? Walesi here of Tribe Living Legacy, and today's topic is I want to share with you, actually, give you some fatherhood advice that I have learned, that I've developed, that I've learned over the years. Nine things to be a conscious parent, to be a conscious father especially. Number one is don't hit your children. It may sound a lot like common sense for a lot of you, but for a lot of you out there who grew up with it, like I did, you think it's normal, you think it's behavior, you think it's actually develops discipline in them. It doesn't. This is why you don't see coaches in the gym yelling and screaming and beating up their athletes, because that's not how you nurture them to get the best out of them. That's why they nurture that's why coaches in the gym, like myself, and we nurture athletes like how my coaches did with me. They nurtured me like a child because they want to bring out the best in me, and that's what we must do with our children. And hitting them, screaming at them does not do that. And so if you grew up with that in your background, in your life, just know that that was because your parents didn't know better, and that was because that's how they were raised. But that does not mean that you have to do that as well. It does not develop discipline. I'm telling you right now, it does not develop discipline. Hitting your kids, all right? There's a time and place where, of course, if they're getting too lippy, they're getting attitude, they're starting to sound self-entitled and spoiled, sit back and think, how did you allow that to happen? Where did that behavior come from? What have you been doing, or what have you not been doing? Which leads to number two, don't try and give your children everything that you never had, okay? Because you're growing up in a different world. They're growing up in a different world. You grew up in a different world, okay? So our parents raised us for a world that they used to live in, that no longer existed when we were children, right? We tend to do the same now. And I realized I was doing this with my son. I was raising my son. I didn't realize until he was the age of 3, but I realized I was raising him for a world that no longer existed. And I wasn't raising him for the world that he lives in now, or the world that he is going to live in. And this is a natural thing. I've spoken about this in another video, because it's a human instinct, primal instinct, for us to raise our children based on, for survival and thrival. So for thousands of years, our ancestors didn't have to change the way they raised their children because their lifestyles didn't change, right? They still hunted, they still gathered the same, they still lived in the same environment. There was no much integration from the outside world to have to adapt to. So, and this is why a lot of indigenous cultures also struggle with Western civilization. Well, pretty much everybody struggles with Western civilization. Even if you love capitalism, you will still find that a lot of things just don't align with the human soul, the human spirit, right? So when it comes to raising children, raise them for the world that they're living in now, and the world that they're going to be living in. So research, this is why it's important to stay ahead, to develop yourself. Personal development is key. The next one I wanted to share is health. Health. Make sure your children are healthy. Make sure you are in the healthiest form you can possibly be before you even have children, because the DNA structure of you and your partner, whatever health condition it is in, that is the starting foundation for your children. So fortunately for me, I was always athletic growing up, and I continue to do so. Martial arts, it saved me a lot, and it promoted me a lot to continuously always be active, especially as a natural warrior myself. So I was fortunate in that area. However, the partner I chose to have my first 2 children with was very bad, and she was carrying a lot of trauma as well. So make sure you heal any unresolved trauma as well before you have children. Now, if you already have children and you can see that your unresolved trauma is not only still around, but it's starting to manifest in them, fix it now, especially while they're young. Hell, even if your children are 30 years old, sit down and start having conversations with them. And if they feel uncomfortable, practice having conversations with yourself or other people. But whatever you do, resolve your unresolved trauma so that it doesn't pass on, it doesn't carry on. Because all that, it weakens down at the child's mentality. It weakens and lowers their self-esteem, their self-confidence. And if you're not healthy-minded, healthy body, healthy spirit, healthy heart, healthy emotions, healthy bank account, a healthy group of people around you, a healthy social network, your children are going to mold off whatever they see, feel, and hear that you're involved with as well. So health and fitness, be healthy, be fit, continuously develop yourself and your spirit, your mental, your emotional, your physical, your financial state. Get all those areas as healthy and as fit as possible, so that they can learn how to develop those areas as well, because you want them to have the best, right? And not just the best, you want them to be in their best, so that whatever comes their way in life, they're able to handle it. They have the confidence to be able to go and do it. The next one is teach them about money. Teach them about how money works. And do not talk negatively about money around them. Do not have a poor mindset around them. If you have not read the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, read that book. It's, long story short, it's a story about a child that grows up with two dads, one with a rich mindset, one with a poor mindset. And if you grow up around people with a broke mindset, your children are going to develop the same thing. Oh, I'm too broke, I don't have the money for this. Even if you are broke and you don't have the money for something, do not mention it in front of them. Do not talk about being broke. Do not talk about struggling paying bills or anything like that. Simply just reword yourself around them. Like, say, for example, my son would say, well, can we go and do this? You said we were going to do this, but we ran into a financial rough patch, or I did anyway, because I was a single father at the time. And instead of saying, no, son, I don't have the money for it, I simply said, no, now is not the right time. I want to make sure we do it at the right time, the right moment, so that we can get the best out of it. So I will let you know when it's time to go and do that. Learn how to talk. Learn how to communicate, which is the next step. Which is the next one I wanted to share. Is learn how to talk, learn how to communicate with your children. Talk to them. Children are not dumb. They understand everything, even if they're not consciously able to comprehend what you're saying. Intuitively, their subconscious, and their higher intelligence, their energy is reading your energy, feeling your energy. So if you do not feel confident in your words when you speak to them, they're going to feel it. Therefore, they're not going to trust you. They're not going to respect you. They're not going to actually listen to you. Even if they do listen to you, they're not going to like listening to you. So learn how to be confident and talk and communicate yourself. When you talk and communicate with them, do it confidently. Do it confidently by developing your confidence for yourself. That way, they will also develop the same, and they will respect you. They will admire you. They will love you. And this is especially for all of you parents out there that struggle with basic confidence yourself. Look, I get it. There's a lot of things in the world that you don't understand. The world continuously keeps evolving and things change and stuff like that. The internet came about. You had no idea what to do with it. Mobile phones came about. Tablets came about. You had no idea what to do with it, except you saw that it gave you a break from your children and they were happy. They weren't complaining and so forth. But this is the next one. Take those devices away from them and do stuff with your children. Spend time with them. Teach them how to do stuff. Go and learn new things with them, no matter what age they're at. I started training with my son in the gym. I started teaching him martial arts from the second he could walk. From the second he can walk. Right now, he is at a Muay Thai class. He went there on his own because I had work tonight. And he loves it. He's that dedicated. And it's because I did those things with him throughout when he was growing up, amongst the other things. Do things with your children. Get them away from the tablets. That's the more information they consume. You know, and more information doesn't make you smarter. It doesn't make you better. It doesn't give you more of a head start. It just takes away a lot of your own creativity and dumps it in the air. You end up just making your kids slower, weaker, dumber. Get out in the real world and do stuff with your kids. Throw away the tablets, get them off their phones. They're gonna get more depressed the more they jump on social media and see things that they don't have. They see people, their friends doing things that they're not doing. They're gonna feel like shit. Then they're gonna look at you doing the same thing. So if you're the same as well, you got to clean up your habits as well. If you really want your children, if you really care about them, if you really love them, do the work. Get rid of the phones, get rid of the tablets, get rid of the TV, turn it off. I'm not saying completely, go all off grid and stuff like that, but at the same time, that will be better for them. I wish I raised my children on the farms or around the acreages life, even though we're on acreage now. The way I did growing up in New Zealand, because there's less influence, there's less negativity, there's less stress influencing their development. This is key if you want them to develop really well, really strong. So these are some of the key things that we'll go over more topics in this area, but I wanted to share with you the things that really have held on to me, but have also really made me a much greater parent, a greater father for my children, and have helped my children develop a lot more confidence. They're a lot healthier, they're a lot more mature. I feel more comfortable that they're going to be able to take on the world as they grow older and as the world changes and develops and shifts into new directions, as it constantly will. And the best thing we can do is just strengthen their foundations. That is all we can do. Strengthen their mind, strengthen their heart, strengthen their body, strengthen their spirit, strengthen their knowledge when it comes to finances, because that's how the world is run. It's run by finances and all that. Strengthen their social network, make sure that they're hanging around strong, confident, grounded other kids, other children. Actually, before we leave, that is another one. Be mindful of who your children hang around with. Don't let them hang around with any other, just any old kid from the block. You know, if they have a bad attitude, negative attitude, if they're depressing, if they're just too laid back, or, you know, if they've got bad habits that you can obviously see that they've learned from their parents, cut it. Your children will understand when they get older. Say no. You look at royal families. They never sent their children to public schools. Why? Because they didn't want them to get a public education. They didn't want to get publicly influenced. They didn't want them to get downgraded to that level in their eyes, right? They wanted them to actually be educated, mature, intelligent, confident. So they made sure that their children were raised and educated around those type of people, right? They had private education, small containers, small circles. You got to do the same as well, especially in today's world, because a lot of children are being raised by their phones rather than their actual parents. And if you're one of them, that needs to change now if you want your child to have any chance at not living in survival mode in the future, because the world is going to continuously evolve and develop positively and negatively. The question is, will your children be prepared for it? And if you plan on letting them go out into the wild on their own to learn on their own, you're just pretty much leaving them like sheep to the slaughter. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing as a parent. It's not what we are supposed to be doing as parents. Our responsibility is not to be their best friend. It's not to be loved and admired for buying them shit. It's to simply strengthen them and make sure that they are in good form, strong form, to be able to go out into the world and handle it on their own with whatever comes their way, with whatever changes happen out in the world. This is my advice for you in regards to being a conscious parent, developing a better relationship with your children so that they can have a better life, so that you can also experience a better life and a better experience with your children. Love and wonder.